Hi all, this is Nelly from Ordinary People Saintly Souls, reading from the visions from Maria Valtorta and paraphrasing, summarizing for you what she saw during the days before the crucifixion. And today we saw Jesus preach in the temple again. It is Thursday, and at this moment he is chilling in a garden. He must have been tired. And then they come and call him and say that they can go to the house where the Last Supper will take place. But before he goes, there is a group of people who want to talk to him again. And they say, we want to talk to you because people tell us we're fools that we believe in you. So what shall we do? And he says, again, if you believe in me, you do not believe in me, but you believe him who sent me. And so he explains again how he was sent by the Father. And then they ask, and he explains to them that you must believe in order not to offend God. He is your Father and he's my Father. And he loves you to the extent of sacrificing his only begotten Son for you. And then they say, well, how can we do this? How can we live according to your word? And then he said, well, it's simple. I paraphrase. He says, you listen to my words and put them into practice, and you will have life, because my word is life. And he who accepts it accepts at the same time me, and also with me the Father in heaven, who sent me to give you life. And he who has God in himself has the life in himself. So then Jesus goes to what we call the upper room, where the Passover meal is served. And he first actually goes and greets his mother, Mary, who is there, and the women are there. Lazarus, the servants of Lazarus have brought up food, and Mary, his mother, is there helping with the preparation. So when they arrive, he first goes and sits with her. They are alone, and she starts to cry because she knows that this is the final goodbye for now. And even Mary, although she was the one strongest in faith, she really had trouble believing that her son would come back to life, would be coming back to the earth again. Everybody felt that everything was lost after the crucifixion. And so they talk a bit. They talk about the current situation, how people are very disturbed, and how the atmosphere is, on the one hand, excitement after the impromptu procession on into Jerusalem the Sunday before, and now what is happening now. That, the hatred, the level of hatred is rising. More people are coming to Jerusalem. More people are asking to hear Jesus. So the situation is becoming quite precarious. And Valtorta, she saw the actual Passover meal because her visions are just put together later and put in the sequence, that it follows the sequence of the Bible. And this one she actually saw on March 9th, 1945, which reminds me of the fact that was about a month, 6 weeks before the Second World War finally ended, because she has seen most of these visions while the war was raging around them. And she sees the disciples preparing the upper room. They are preparing the room for the supper, and they all feel very depressed. And after hearing, the different comments on Jesus, and people saying that he was a fool and that he was mad, and they start to kind of quarrel with each other, and especially Judas is quarreling with them, and that is very interesting. So I'm going to read some of that for you, because first of all, Peter has had it with Judas, and he talks that Judas that there is a stench of and so Peter tells himself to be quiet. And then Judas says, well, you as well, you seem to have gone mad for some time. Your face is like that of a wild rabbit that it realizes being chased by a jackal. That says Judas to Peter. And then Peter says, your face is like the snout of a weasel. You are even cross-eyed. And you seem very self-confident, by the way. You want to appear so, but you look like someone who's afraid, actually. And then Judas says to Peter, oh, with regard to being afraid, you are no hero either. And then Peter says, none of us is Judas. And then Valtorta describes what the different disciples look like. She says some look like sleepwalkers. Some do nothing but sigh. They are so grieved because of their love for the master. They look like old men. Thomas has lost his cheerfulness. Simon seems to have become again the exhausted leper. He was healed from leprosy by Jesus 3 years before. He looks like a leper again, since he is so much worn out by grief. And then Judas says, yeah, you see, he has influenced us all with his melancholia. And then they say, well, I'm sorry, but he's not melancholic, depressed. If you mean by that word that he is sad because of what he's been gone through, you're right. But if you want to say he's mad, I forbid you to say so, says James. And then the disciples get really angry. Judas says, oh, no, it's melancholia, depression, because that is a type of madness. I have studied also profane matters, and I know he has given too much of himself. Now he is mentally tired. So Judas diagnoses Jesus. And one of the disciples says, you mean he's insane? And Judas says, exactly. How right was your father, a man of blessed memory, whom you resemble so much in justice and wisdom. Because the father of that disciple did not want to believe in Jesus' mission. Jesus, the sad destiny of an illustrious family, now too old and struck by psychological senility, has always had a disposition for this illness. Mild at first, then more and more aggressive. You have seen how he attacked the Pharisees and the scribes and the leaders of the temple. He has made his life impossible, like a road strewn, covered with glass, and he has spread himself. We have loved him so much. We have loved him so much that our love made us blind. But those who did not love him, and then he mentions again some people who did not want to follow Jesus. Those who did not love him, their eyes were opened. But we were enticed by his meek charm of a sick person. And now, who knows? So this was Judas speaking. Well, this makes the disciples or the apostles livid. And one of them gets a chair and hits Judas with it on his cheek, not on his chin, on his cheek. And all this time, Jesus was with his mother in the other room. And now he comes back. And so Judas tries to get it together again, get a hold of himself. And Jesus says, oh, Judas, do you have a toothache? your right cheek is swollen and red. And he says, oh yeah, it's aching, but it's not worth worrying about. And so I think, oh yeah, and then Jesus, he starts to arrange the seating. So this is when the Passover supper begins. And Jesus will first arranges the seating. And he wants that Judas sits opposite him. And the others kind of are offended by that. They say, why does he have to sit opposite? You know, why not us? Now, let me see where I was. And so then they start the official rite of the Passover, and I will talk about that in the next video.